Monster Hunter World is upon us, and oh my, does it look good. In fact, for a lot of people, Monster Hunter World might just be the first time they've been tempted to dive into a Monster Hunter game, which is exciting, but also a little bit intimidating. It's a huge, expansive, and complex game with a wealth of hidden systems and wonderfully deep mechanics. If that isn't usually your thing, and you're only vaguely aware of what the hell a palico is anyway, don't be worried. If you do decide to take the plunge, it's all accessible enough that it won't be long until you're hunting with the best of them. Here are 7 things that might worry you about jumping into Monster Hunter World, but really shouldn't. The first thing that you'll need to get to grips with in Monster Hunter is the preparation loop. Most people who have even vaguely heard of this series before know that you don't just charge out into the wilds looking for your next kill, because that's a surefire way to fainting and failure. You need to fully prepare first. Take rewards and resources gained from the previous hunt to the smithy to see what can be upgraded or forged, and while you're there you can add specific items to your wish list so that the game notifies you when you've picked up all the necessary ingredients. Then, you might want to check your item pouch. Sell or discard any stuff that you've gathered that you don't need and craft the items that you do want. Reading up on your next prey might help with that particular task too. Most of all though, make sure you get a good meal in. The stat boosts are just too good to miss, but it's worth it all every time just to see the master chefs at work. Don't forget once you're actually on a hunt to keep tracking monsters too, checking out footprints and mucus and skid marks if the opportunity arises. These investigations can open up bounties and further rewards later on. At first, we were a little terrified on seeing that there were time limits on quests. But at least in the early stages, you won't even need to think about timing. Even if it takes a little while to actually track down your monster, and even if you take as many detours on the way as you like, picking up honey or herbs or slaying a couple of extra beasts just for parts, you won't even come close to running out of time. So don't rush yourself. Make sure to pause and do all the little things that you need to. When a monster retreats, don't panic and charge off after them. Have a breather, have some ration, use your whetstone, and pick up those special shiny parts that they drop, which can often be valuable contributions to weapon or armor upgrades. It's easy to think that you have to constantly be charging forward, but you really don't. And in fact, by taking the time you need to do things right, you'll make things easier for yourself in the long run, which will in turn cut down the time it takes to cut down monsters. When you're out in the wilderness, it can be almost overwhelming the amount of things that you can pick up and stuff in your pockets. Plants, seeds, bones, pods, spiderwebs, mushrooms, meat. And once you open up your crafting menu, there's an insane amount of things to make out of all that rubbish. Ammo, coatings, traps, bombs, potions, antidotes, throwing knives, immunizers, tranquilizers, bait, energy drinks, barbecues, nutrients. It's all a bit much. The thing to remember is you don't need all of this stuff all of the time, and you'll quickly figure out what kinds of items actually just take up room in your pouch. You'll soon prioritise the good stuff too, like herbs and honey, and be able to spot them on sight from half a map away. Don't get too bogged down with hoovering up absolutely everything basically, and don't feel like you're coming up short by not using it all. It's perfectly fine to not want to use the specially crafted ammo stuff at all. If you're more comfortable just focusing on melee, stick to short range weaponry, traps, and your trusty arm shooter thing. There are a lot of very wordy tutorials thrown at you from the very beginning in Monster Hunter World, and not everything will sink in right away, especially if this is your first Monster Hunter experience. The Hub HQ in particular can hide a lot of functions that only become apparent in their usefulness as you progress through those early stages. Fine points about investigations, registering bounties, and heading out on expeditions can all be found at the Resource Center, and working your way through some of these in between posting up or joining other main quests can really make a difference in how you level up or improve your gear and weaponry. So do seek out those guys at the Resource Center if you're up for hunting or capturing any of the monsters you've already faced for some extra rewards that can come in handy later. Speaking of, the loot that you get on these extra expedition investigations can really help you with the question we kept asking ourselves in the beginning of the game. Is it better to keep forging new gear, or is it better to upgrade the gear that you already have? Doing these extra investigations will mean that you'll fight bigger monsters several times over, so you'll have plenty of materials to craft yourself a full armor set early on, and then you'll have armor spheres with which to beef that armor set up a little. Going out on expeditions means you're more likely to run into a lot of different ores and materials too, which you will also need to upgrade your weapons. Weapons upgrade differently from armor in that there are different upgrade trees that you can follow depending on your resources. So if there's an upgrade that you really want, putting it on your wish list and focusing on expeditions that target the animals with the parts you need will mean better payloads and extra rewards for you. But really, don't worry if your approach is a bit scattershot in the beginning. You likely won't have all the parts you need to craft a full armor set after fighting a monster just the once. So make what you can and make a note to head back later for whatever else you need. Don't forget that you can preview how a full set looks in advance too, because as we all know, fashion is important around these parts, for your palico as much as you. If anything is going to be daunting to newcomers about Monster Hunter though, surely it's got to be the monsters themselves. I mean, yeah, that's the whole challenge, isn't it? These huge, amazing, ferocious creatures can't be the sort of enemy that's felled in a couple of swings of your sword. They need to make you work for victory. But don't be too scared of them. Provided you prepare adequately, spend time familiarizing yourself with how the beast works and what its weaknesses might be, and lay down the necessary traps, you will bring it down. Just don't get discouraged if you don't bring it down right away. These fights are supposed to be fairly slow going. So pace yourself, use every tool at your disposal, and give them hell. Bear in mind too that all the animals you hunt are part of a greater food chain, and if you make it so that the monster you're hunting bumps into the next monster up on the chain, you can stand back and watch as your quarry takes extra damage, allowing you to then sneak in and reap the rewards. Just, be sure not to draw the attention of both at once. That's probably going to go badly for you. Mind you, if there is one thing that scares Monster Hunter newbies more than the monsters themselves, it's probably going to be the other players. It's really kind of intimidating diving into a long-running series for the first time and pairing up with people who've been hunting for years and long gotten the hang of how things work. It's easy to feel self-conscious. What if they critique your gear, your weapon, your sloppy playstyle, or worst of all, your palico? Well, don't worry. The Monster Hunter community is historically a helpful one. And since cooperation and teamwork is at the heart of online play, players will likely be happy to answer any questions you have or help you out with that one quest that's been plaguing you. Just make sure to get a couple of solo practice rounds in first with some of the early monsters and see that you return the favour and be mindful of everyone's needs in a group. A detour or two to ensure everyone is well prepped will go far. Most of all though, just have fun. So, will you be picking up Monster Hunter World, and will it be your first Monster Hunter game? Let us know. And if it isn't your first Monster Hunter, share some of your best tips for newcomers below in the comments. We'll have plenty of other videos coming up on the channel soon, so do like this video, or even subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Bye!